Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 3 replays in the tier 10 Italian tank destroyer, the Minotauro, or it's the Contracarro Mark III Minotauro. But it's the Minotauro, and yeah, we're finally there. We've got to the pinnacle of the line. We've had the tier 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, and we're finally at the tier 10. And we're going to have some pretty decent games for your faces, just to show off how this tank is. And yeah, what do I think of the tank as I've been playing it? I think it's pretty decent. The armour on it is absolutely solid if you keep your front to people. The lower plate is troll, but on the whole, will get penned. Mostly by tier 10s and tier 9s. But if you're against tier 8s, they will struggle a fair bit to pen this lower plate. But for the most part, it's fairly troll. But the upper plate and the turret armour are absolutely fabulous. The gun handling on it, a world above the tier 9. It actually hits things, which is nice. The rolls are pretty damn decent. The reload is pretty nice as well. You know, 8 seconds for 530 is not too bad on the intra-clip. Well, if you're not considering playing as an autoloader, if you were to think of a standard shotgun, right, it's not too bad. But it's a fairly enjoyable experience. You just go hull down and you can laugh with how good your armour is. And the turret armour on this tank is absolutely fabulous. Like I said, the gun is actually pretty damn nice as well, because with the setup you're going to be seeing in, well, the setup I run, it's got a 2.12 second aim time, which is absolutely fantastic. As you can see, it aims in really, really quickly. The accuracy is 0.36, which is fine. That actually hits more often than not, which is great. The AP round has 1303 shell velocity, which, again, is fantastic, because you're not going to struggle too much at shooting things at range with that shell velocity. It really does zoom over to the target, which is nice. And then you've got 1256 meters of velocity on, or 1256 meters a second velocity on the heat rounds as well, which is pretty good for heat, because heat tends to be a lot slower, right? So that's quite nice. And the accuracy, the one thing, right, that goes for this is the accuracy during turret rotation with snapshot is only 0.21. Now, you do have a limited yaw limit of 45 degrees each way, so the turret only traverses 45 degrees each way. But that means that when you turn the turret, the gun just does not bloom. So if you to stay in one spot and just keep turning the turret and aiming, well, turning the turret to get the shots in on people, your gun just doesn't bloom out. It's basically nearly always fully aimed, which is great. As soon as you start moving, though, you do have the accuracy of 2.07 on the move when you're running run and gun and stuff. So it does bloom out a little bit when you're on the move, but like I say, 2.1 second aim time pretty much means that, again, you're not waiting for this gun to aim in that much at all, really. And this tank does have 530 alpha, like I say, which is really quite nice, because the rolls you do get with it are really good. You tend to get, like, you know, the 540s, 550s, or, you know, even 500s, 520s, which just, it feels really nice to use this gun as well. So on the whole, generally, I have actually enjoyed playing this tank, and I do think it's a fairly solid addition at tier 10. Is it absolutely incredible, amazing, the best tank out there? No. No, it's not. E4 still holds that. But is it like, oh no, it's dreadful, you should never go for this tank because it's terrible? No, it's pretty decent. It's just not the next big OP thing, right? And a lot of people care about only that, really. But it's not the biggest, most OP thing in the universe. It's a steady Eddie. It just sort of goes along, goes, hello, I'm okay, and dishes out some damage, blocks a fair amount of damage, and if you get into a hull down position, you're absolutely great. And it can be a fairly enjoyable experience. The one thing that does go against this tank, again, is kind of like the tier 9 in the same way, is that it only does have 30 kilometers an hour on its top speed, which means in some of the faster games, the game does get away from you a little bit at times. You have to make sure you're positioned in the right place, or make sure you're adjusting your course when, say, chasing someone or something, to make sure that you're trying to intercept them as easily as possible. It's just something to bear in mind, that you are a little bit slower, which is why you'd probably run the traction system to get to 33 kilometers an hour, which you can hit if you do run the traction system. So in terms of a crew on the Minotauro, I do run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Clutch Braking, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun. Now, if you've been watching the videos this week, that crew should not be a shock to you, because that's pretty much the crew I've used all the way up, and yeah, it doesn't change for me. I have the clutch braking so that I can get my track traverse as good as possible, because we do get it up to 28.78 degrees a second with the with clutch braking and the traction system too. And then all the gun perks, because I do want to make this gun as good as possible, and having stuff like snapshot, having stuff like run and gun, just knocks the accuracy during rotation and movement down quite a bit, because obviously you don't get vert stabs because you're a TD. And it just helps this gun be aimed in and ready to go on your targets as much as possible, because that's the thing that you need with this tank. This tank has to be ready to go, it has to be ready to fire, you have to be able to get those shots in when you can, and from your hull down positions. And so having the gun handling as good as you humanly can be is a must asset for this tank. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could drop something like snapshot and run, or run and gun if you don't fancy shooting on the move in this tank, right? Which I guess is something that you're not going to do too much, but I like it because it does just nullify the bloom while you're moving and stuff a little bit. But you could drop that and put other things on, like, say, general mechanic, to go with track mechanic, to make sure that if someone does track you and tries to go around you, because you don't have the best track traverse in the universe, you will get the tracks back on in like 3 seconds. And that means that even if they do track you, you're going to be ready to turn around as quickly as possible, which is always nice. But there's so many different things you can do, really. It's completely down to you with how you set it up. I just set it up like that. And in terms of equipment, I do run pretty much the same as I ran on the tanks below, but not the tier 9, because the gun handling on tier 9 was so frustrating. I run traction system, optics, and the camo net. So again, the camo net, because you get the camo rating without any other camo perks, down to 264 meters of steel concealment, which is really, really damn good. And then the traction system to get up to 33 kilometers an hour, and optics, which puts your view range up to 499, which is really glorious to be able to spot for yourself. As you can see in this first game, we finished with 4 kills, 5.5k damage, 2k blocked, the third class, 1406 base XP, a pretty decent game for the Minotauro, and it showed kind of what it's capable of, that when you do get caught out in the open, your lower plate can be a vulnerable thing. But you can just keep dishing out the damage, and the gun is pretty damn consistent. You do have 265 pen on the standard rounds, which is pretty nice. Obviously, maybe not tier 10 TD levels, but that's the way that, again, the way these tanks are modeled is in terms of the stats of the guns and stuff like that, is more like heavy tanks of the tier than TDs, pretty much. So you've got 265 millimeters of pen, 265 millimeters of pen. English is hard, brain work, that sort of thing. 265 millimeters of pen on the AP rounds, which is good enough to pen most things you're going to face, which is nice. But when you do face something like a Type 5 heavy or a mouse or a 100, etc., etc., where you just want to be able to go through turret faces and just general armor in general, you got 330 millimeters of heat pen on this 130 millimeter gun, which is absolutely glorious, and you will butter them up no problem whatsoever. So you do have really, really good premium rounds as well, and you can use them to pretty damn nice effect if you need to. So as you can see, we're in the second game, sorry, not the first game, we're in the second game, and this second game is on Nibelberg, the brand new map, and there is an island at B6. It's a fantastic island, okay? You should all definitely never go there, but it's my island, and that's cool. And on Nibelberg, this is the first game I actually played on it. This is the first game that pretty much anyone in this game has played on it, because it literally hit 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, whenever I think it was 10 o'clock. Literally hit 10 o'clock, and it was like, Nibelberg's in the map rotation, and the first game I played, Nibelberg. It was like, oh, okay, fair enough. So, being a little bit cautious with what they're doing. Clearly, the teams are set up really weirdly because no one knows what to do. But I do come to this position here at E5 because I did know that this position, because I've got only the tiniest bit of experience, because I don't play Grand Battles whenever I played PC, but I do have the tiniest bit of experience with Nibelberg from Grand Battles on PC, and I knew that this position here at E5 was a good little position to get hull down with, and I could try, if anyone tried to come around the castle, I could get shots into them. And that's what we're trying to do. As you can see, we ended up shooting some people that were going around into the town. There was a heavy tank coming up directly behind me, and that made me go, oh god, I'm trying not to get shot in the back. We have the E5 directly in front, though. It's like, Miller and Mr. E5, let me just aim the shot into your lower plate. But unfortunately, it went high, and we didn't quite pen the E5. Now, this guy hasn't got a clue how many we've fired. He probably could push over and shoot me yet again. But he has no idea how many I've fired. he currently, with the way he's moving and running away, thinks I was loaded. But I bluffed him out to the point where he's ran away, and now I'm loaded. It's like, well, okay then, don't mind if I do. We get a nice shot into his lower plate. Unfortunately, he pens the side of my turret as I'm looking for a shell into this TNH. And, oh, unfortunately, the shell just hits the floor into that TNH, and we don't quite get the shot into him. But we're going to go for the shots into the cupola of this E5, and with 265 pen... I mean, the cupola of the E5 is trolled, but with 265 pen, most of the time, if I hit the right spot, it's just going to go through. And as you see, we're buttering that poor guy's cupola, which is the sadness of the E5 on a ridgeline. It basically gets completely trashed. Now, I do know there's the TD and the heavy tank that are behind me, and I hadn't really looked that when I was pushing that E5, I didn't know that if I was safe or not, if I was going to get shot in the side by the guys down below. But actually, there was a big wall there, as you can see, which meant that they couldn't see me. We're up to 3.1k damage with 1300 assistance. Just waiting for the clip to come back in, and we're ready to go. The C-75's driving sideways on. It's like, well, thank you very much. We shoot at him, hit him, pen him, and we don't get spotted because the camo on this tank is, again, very, very good. Just aiming for the lower plate, but unfortunately, the shell deviates a bit to the left and really wasn't well aimed. And we only track him. And we're just looking for the shot into his cupola. We do hit the cupola, which is quite nice. But we end up bouncing. The machine is really hulled down there. And while I'm hulled down, that machine is pretty much not going to pen me, which is, you know, very, very nice. And I was thinking, okay, what's going off behind me now? And there is a T-58 here. It's like, hello, Mr. T-58. Let me just come and shoot you in the turret, please, bro. Nope, can't quite do that. The E5 from earlier is above. And I'm thinking, he might... This rock in front of me, I'm not, again, because it's the first time playing this map on console, I'm not still 100% sure of the angles that are happening, so I wasn't sure if that E5 could quite get a shot into me here, because that rock that was on my left didn't seem like he could quite get it, but I didn't want to lose the hit points to him. At the minute, we are losing, we're starting to lose pretty heavily now. The machine is pushing over, and it's like, well, okay, Mr. Machine, let me try and get another shot into you. If we can. He is tracked in the open, so we slap a big shot into his side for 497, and I'm just going to wait for the next shell to come in. I'm overexposing so I can make sure I'm getting the shot into this guy, slap it in for 522, pull back so we can try it again, bounce the C-75, angle in, and luckily we do bounce him. Now I'm going to turn back for this T-58 Heavy, because I expected the T-58 Heavy to actually like come charging for us, but he doesn't quite do it. The E-75 is still hiding behind this rock, making it as hard as possible for me. So I'm just looking for a shot into his cupola, but it's not quite feathering it out. So I'm just like, there we go. Finally get the shell straight through his cupola there. And he ends up getting shut down by the Tyran. 2 shells left, and again, I'm still expecting this T-58 to come charging after me. But he's not coming after me. I am detected by artillery, though, which makes me go, I don't really want to stay here too often. So we pop the reload, and I decide, right, okay, we're going to go up and try and pressure these guys in the middle, because they seem to be farming everything. The problem with going up and trying to get shots into the people in the middle is that in this situation we're in here, if there's something at, like, Petty Island, or I'm always going to name it, okay? Petty Island at A6, or anyone that's in the town, they can shoot up into the middle, into my back. And that's a problem. But at this point, I've given up. Because we're 8-3, and they are still all exceptionally healthy. So I'm just going to try and pop up and see if we can start putting some clips in and start disrupting them. We end up finding that we get an awkward angle shot into the gorilla there. And we're just going to move back and try and get another shot in while we get the intro clip in. So we do manage to get another shot into the gorilla. We get shot from behind, directly behind, which was like, how is the thing shooting me behind not getting spotted here? What is going off? We can't quite find the shot into the gorilla, and unfortunately we get shut down by that T-58 from earlier on. But we do finish the game with 6.2k damage. Unfortunately, the defeat, 1600 assistance. We ended up blocking 3.7k as well. The high caliber sniper medal, 725 base XP on a loss. Sad times that we got the loss, but it did show off Nibelberg a little bit, even if we didn't really progress that far or anywhere really, and we just used one spot. But it was a pretty decent game for a defeat, and yeah, it was just a shame that it's one of those, right, because it's a brand new map, not many people knew where to go, and unfortunately their team just sort of found the better positions and farmed away. And we're on to the third and final replay. This is probably actually the best replay, well, yeah, the best result I've had in the Contracarro Mark III Minotauro. And it's a pretty damn nice game. And it's Prokhorovka with no artillery, which means really this should be the dream scenario for the Minotauro, because it's ridge lines, it's hull down, And usually it's patience and time to keep just dumping shells, firing, keeping the clip going as much as possible, but then having the ability to pull back and fire again and, you know, reset, etc, etc. So we're going to come to this position over here at F3, which is pretty much where I go most of the time, especially with tanks that have got turret armor and gun depression, because from this position here, you can actually spot down the 2-line quite effectively at times, and you can also stay hull down and stay safe from the enemy team that are down there. We tried to pop a shot at the light tank at the 1390 straight away. Unfortunately, didn't quite go in. We pop over a little bit. We were trying to get a shot into the T49, but it just wasn't happening. And we just got to remember, we've got to stay just a little bit cautious if we can. The T49 comes over, we try and get a shot in, and unfortunately that shot again misses on the T49. The 1390 is coming up, so I'm just trying to lag behind a little bit with my shell to track him. That's exactly what happens, but unfortunately that AMX 1390 doesn't end up getting shut down, which is, again, I was hoping to blow his tracks off, and that way he'd just get stuck on the ridgeline, but hey, it didn't happen the way I wanted it to. I did track him. I did get that big shell for 581, but he didn't get shut down. And it's always great on Prok to get rid of enemy light tanks, because generally the team that has the best light tanks tends to win on Prok because they have the best vision. So as you can see, the T49 is moving up. We get a nice shot into the back of him, which damages his engine, and I've decided, okay, there didn't seem to be much firing at us from at the back at A2, so what I'm going to do is move into the bowl. The bowl is now mine. We aim up the shot for the T49, and unfortunately don't quite get the shot to kill. But we're going to try and make sure that we do get rid of this man, and fortunately for me, that shot flies straight through into the T49, gets rid of their light tank. We end up spotting the Yag Tiger, and it's like, okay, let me aim that shot into his lower plate, and unfortunately the shell misses, or, well, the shell doesn't miss, it actually hits, it just bounces off his upper plate. We end up getting tagged there from probably the train tracks at the back at like A6, and it's that was painful. That was quite a lot of hit points in one shell. And I'm looking at it, right, okay, that was the E4. There's no doubt in my mind that was the E4, because that was nearly 900. Definitely the E4. That's what I'm going for. He's down there on the train tracks. So we just know that we have to be careful when we're exposing on top of this ridge now, because he could get shots into us. But as you can see, the Projector 66 at the back gets spotted. We're just going to crest as little as we can over the ridgeline and be ready to shoot this 66, and we get to shut him down. We've got 3 shells left. We're up to 2k damage, 750 assistance, and we've got some nice shots at this angle into this Yag Tiger, who is trying to put the hurt into my TDs and heavy tanks that are progressing down the 1 line. So they're going to struggle a little bit to get the shots into him, so I need to try and help my team out by getting rid of him and making it so that, you know, that they can basically win that line, because at the minute the enemy team is definitely winning the 890 very, very quickly. So we need to get rid of these guys on this side so that we can turn around and try and help defend our base. We're up to 3k damage, 750 assistance, just waiting for the clip once again to come in. And the one thing is, obviously, this clip reloads very, very quickly, so we aren't really waiting too long. I mean, it's 20.7 second reload, is pretty damn nice. We're just going to come over, slap the shot into the machine. We knew that we weren't going to get shot by the E4 because he's distracted with everybody else on the other line. And we're just going to wait for the gun to aim in, get the shot straight into the lower plate of the E4, 550. And now I'm like, okay, I'm still detected. That means they're behind me. So we're going to pull back and use the bowl to fire at our own base, which is a really, really weird thing. And I'm just going to make sure that I try and get the shot in to kill this 1390. Unfortunately, the shell doesn't kill the 1390, but I do need to get rid of this light tank, because, again, he's the one that will be providing vision for his friends, and if we can get rid of him, nice. That's great, because that means that they don't have the vision anymore to keep shooting at us, and anything that's down there towards our cap might be a bit blind. So we ran out of shells there, so we're now loading the last clip of AP that we're probably going to get off. And now we're nearly loaded. I'm thinking, right, what do I shoot? E100, 30B. Well, 30B is spotted at the minute. He's the one that's using his mobility to try and get away from us. So we get a nice shot into the side of the 30B there. And you can still see shots flying from the back, so I have to be as careful as possible while using this ridge line. Because obviously, if I'm quite confident to poke over on this ridge here, as long as I'm not exposing my lower plate, because the turret on this thing is absolute god tier. It's absolute god tier. It bounces E4s, premium rounds, all sorts. It's really, really good, really good turret. So I'm happy to stay hull down and exposing. I'm just waiting for things to get spotted so I can pump some shots into them. The E100 over there gets spotted, which we did manage to get a nice shot into. We're just looking for the shot into the 30B. It's not quite happening. I end up pulling back so that this E100 doesn't have the easiest shot into us. And I'm pretty sure that's the multi-weapon system of that E100 firing there, because that shell velocity is terrible. The standard gun doesn't have that bad a shell velocity. But this E100 makes a mistake. Categorical error. Catastrophic error. Categorical error? English. And he's pulled out so that his lower plate is fully exposed, which meant we managed to get the last few shots into that E100's lower plate and shut him down, and give us our 5th kill of this game. So we're now loading the heat rounds. We're up to 6.6k damage. We're loading heat rounds because this clip has 5 rounds, and we only have 3 rounds of standard left, so what's the point? We may as well go through the full loading cycle and have a full clip of heat. So we get a nice shot straight through the lower or upper plate, whichever way that was, for the 268 version 5, straight in. We're now looking for that shot into his cupola, which flies in as he gets unspotted, which I was quite surprised about, to be honest, because I know that obviously the 268 version 5 has a fantastic camera rating. But the heavy tank is directly in front of them. I thought he'd be lit, but hey-ho. We're just aiming the shot for the side of this 257's turret, which flies in, because that 257 is the stock, so he's got the IS-3 turret, and with that sort of angle there, we can go through that turret, but the mouse shunt ends up shutting it down. We're 1 kill off a top gun. I'm like, I just want this top gun. We've got 1 shell left, and I think, you know what? Before this version 5 gets spotted, I might actually have enough time to reload a full clip, and then I can get him and possibly get towards the TD at B9. He's currently not spotted, though, because the heavy tank was struggling to see him, but he finally does get lit up. He ends up getting penned by that heavy tank. The mouse from behind bounces him like, yes, Top Gun, baby. RNG said no. 330 heat pen off the side of that 268 version 5's turret. And that meant that we didn't get the Top Gun. But there is still hope in this game. There is still 1 tank left. It is a tank destroyer. We don't know how much health it's got at the minute. And it's full health. Okay. We could get a decent amount of damage here, but there is a T-58 heavy pushing him. The CC Mark 1, or CC-1 Mark 2, shuts down the 705, so now he's just got to worry about the T-58. The T-58's put his second shell in, which means that is a one-shot now, the Mark 2, for that T-58. But the T-58 bounces, which means we've now got to come to the rescue of the T-58, and the dream of a Top Gun is alive. Let's go. We shouldn't really struggle to pen this CC-1 Mark 2 at all, because, yeah, we've got 3 heat rounds in, and its armour's not the best. As long as we hit the upper plate or lower plate, we're going in, or just below the gun, to be honest. And we're cresting over, it's like, hello there, just get this gun aimed in, slap the shell straight in, Top Gun secured, fantastic, fantabby-dozy, fan-brillianaski. I just made up a word, that's good. And we finished with 6 kills, 8.5k damage, 1,000 assistance, the high caliber, the Top Gun, the first class, 1,738 base XP. A pretty damn nice game for the Minotauro, probably the best one I've had so far. And yeah, so far, I think it's a pretty damn solid tank. It can be pretty fun to play. It has a pretty easy to understand gameplay, which is, you know, get hull down, use the absolutely fantastic turret armor, use the pretty consistent gun, and you'll have a pretty decent time with this tank. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!